Alright, hello. Welcome to this video. And in this video, we're going to be discussing about the bullying that I went through during my childhood. So, necessarily, I wasn't really bullied as much in elementary school, but when I got into middle school, all of that began. This all started when I was in the 6th grade, and of course, they started picking on me and starting using me as a punching bag. And I was really scared to speak up because it was I didn't have anyone to be with. And of course, it was an all boys class in middle school. It remained like that till like the 8th grade. But we're going to be discussing about the bullying events that happened in the 6th and 7th grade first before we get into that. So they started picking on me, saying random things about me that aren't really true. And they would say, hey, you're a faggot, you're a faggot. And they would say other slurs like the R slur, the F slur, and a bunch of other crazy shit. But it's gone on to the point to where I was scared to attend the schools, and it got me to the point of thinking, saying that I was absent a couple times, mostly for appointments and sick days, but it was mostly, and at rare times I would just not go to school because I was getting bullied consistently for literally no reason at all. And then we go into the 7th grade where they kept picking on me. I got the same people. What ended up happening was that they were being rude, picking on me for literally the dumbest reasons possible. And then what ended up happening was that I got ketchup splashed on my face, and I filed a complaint. I couldn't even deal with things like that no more, and I had my class changed that time. It was only for like a couple weeks, and then I remained there until like the 8th grade, and yeah, that was a little better. That was pretty good, but I wasn't getting picked on as much anymore. When we got into high school, things really began to escalate because people didn't realize my disability. I had a learning disability then. I was diagnosed with a learning disability at the age of 2. So what ended up happening was that they didn't realize what that was, and that was why I kept getting bullied. It kept going on and on. And when I was in high school, I didn't really, in freshman year, it was more of a diverse school. It was much better. It was a lot of Hispanics and blacks, mostly Hispanics, and really good though. I mean, yeah, I like people of all races. I don't go because they're fine. I go against the people who think they are better than everyone else, and that's what makes them look bad. And so it's not worth the time to be with those people. And I kind of had that kind of magnet that drags you to people. Like I used to have an attraction to guys at one point, and that was because people would hang out with people the same gender, and that happened in 10th grade a bit, but I still had that like connection, but it wasn't as bad. It wasn't as into the extreme, because every time it was fine at that time until like the second to last day of school where I got caught and I was grabbing onto a chair, and what ended up happening was that I grabbed onto the chair and then it toppled over, and then I fell over, and then I got caught on my right palm, which is like right here, and you can see that there is a scar right here still present. But it was bleeding everywhere, and I had to wear a glove for like 3 whole weeks until I had a flight to Ecuador at the time. And then and once I returned from the flight, it was much better, and it was okay. And then enjoyed the rest of the summer. Then we went into my junior year of high school, which went on as normal for the first couple days. And then what ended up happening was that they started picking on me for like no reason at all. They would tell me that, oh, you're broke, you're broke, you're broke. I'm like, what, doesn't matter. This is, I started to realize that this was like a school for rich people, rich white people. But I'm not saying I'm against those kinds of people. But the fact that you're saying that, oh, you look better than everyone else, that's not something that to really be laughing about, or that's not really nice to say. But it's not really cool. But then they would tell me saying that, hey, you can't sit there because you can't be with other people. You can be with. I'm like, I had to be with myself at most of the time, and I'm like, and then the guidance counselor comes in saying that you can't sit by yourself. You gotta sit with a group of people. But then she says no. At the same time, she can't sit at a table with students. I'm like, make up your mind already. I'm like, I'm not even doing anything. I'm like, so. And then I would just keep going and going because my magnet to guys at that time was growing really, really strong. And looking back at those days, like really, really makes me regret it because that was not the proper way. And I really, really thought that this was not going to happen, but it did. And and then I kept going and going because I was the only table I could be at, and it was an all guys table, by the way, and I was in an all boys class. I was in an all boys class throughout all of my private school years. Um, Once that happened, is that we had that day, October 2nd, where I was suspended for sitting with my grade, which made absolutely zero sense whatsoever. But I was really upset at the time. Like I didn't even do anything that was wrong, but it, I literally tried to go upstairs to my locker, and then the guidance counselor told me saying that you got to go into the parlor. I'm like, why? Why am I going into the parlor for? And he said, because you did something that was completely wrong, and I didn't even do anything that was wrong, but I I just sat in there and just relaxed and did whatever what had to be done. Uh, so hours passed. I wasn't even allowed into the cafeteria as I had to be given lunch. And luckily, the only good thing is that I can use the bathroom when I needed it. But that was the only good part. Uh, I wasn't even allowed into the cafeteria because they said something that the way I behaved, but I never behaved any way like that. Uh, they, of course, they like to make up a lot of things that aren't really true. I found that out at that time. Uh, and then I had to stay in the suspension one time when it was like 3:20, when that was the time the school time ended. I tried to receive my phone, and then the this there was a teacher there who worked for the middle school English department. She said, "No, you're staying here." I'm like, "Why? Why am I staying here when it's already 3:20?" I'm like, "The suspension is over. It's done." And then she said, "No." I'm like, and then I stood longer, and then I got more upset at that time. And I waited till 4 o'clock. I waited till 4 o'clock, and then what ended up happening, saying, "Nope, nope." She said no. I was in the verge of tears at the time, and what ended up happening was that I was not even happy at this point anymore. I was really upset. I was in the verge of breaking down. That was one of my first high school breakdowns that I had. The school was very strict too, and you had to wear a uniform. Uh, except for like Wednesdays where you had to wear like a button down with a tie, and that was the winter dress code. Uh, so I stood there for a really long time, and I stood there for a really long time all by myself. And what ended up happening was that I had to stay there till like 6:30, which was completely wrong of them to do that. And I didn't understand what came out of that, but I was really upset. I was in the verge of tears. I was in tears when they kept me in for that long because I just wanted to go home because I had things I had to do. And I had to do homework and stuff like that. Take care of my family and all that. Anyways, moving on. They also started to do other things, like crazy things. Like I kept trying to sit with them at that time afterwards because like I really had a big attraction to the guys because I was the only people in my class at the time. The girls were only like students from another class. They were older or younger at the time. Uh, I'm not saying I'm against those kinds of people. No, I'm friends with some of the girls right now. Then I right now like I have mixed friendships. Like I'm not, but back then I really regretted my actions at that time, saying that I couldn't be with them. It was really really disgusting of me to do that, but like at the same time they were really snobby at that time, and that was what made me think twice. It made me think twice, and like it's such a shame that people are like that. They had more money than other people, and that doesn't mean you're fine. That doesn't make you better than anyone else. So we go on, and then they put me into another meeting, and this one regards to social media, and of course a lot of people didn't like me and they had me blocked, and I didn't really care. I didn't really care if they blocked me because like they can block me all they want because I don't care. I don't even need them in my life anyway. uh it it's gone because like it's over now, and like we're telling like the story of what happened my junior year, and then like one point one of my classmates said that you sit at our table, you're going to call the cops. I'm like, why are you going to call the cops on me for? I'm not even doing anything to you. And and then another one of my classmates say, oh, if you sit at that table, it's harassment. I'm like, what on earth are you talking about? This is not considered harassment. You see other people with their grade, right? Why is it a problem when I sit there? And then the teachers found that to be a problem too. And it's gotten to one point saying that no, you can't be with them. And this kept going on because and then we move on to December where I try to sit at the table, and then one of the teachers say, knock it off, and then pulls out a detention slip in front of my face. But luckily I was spared. I was spared because I was lucky. I somehow got lucky by like this much. And it was the day before winter break. The winter break was like about 2 weeks. So we start the second trimester. We notice that it's the month of the ring ceremony, and then one of my classmates gets up and then falsely claims that I called someone autistic. But I never would do something like that, and I never did that before because I myself was born with that, and I was diagnosed with that at the age of 2. And to really think that people in my condition get bullied the most is really really disturbing, and it's something that's going on. So we go on, the ring ceremony begins, right? And she said, oh, we're going to talk to your parents at the night of the ring ceremony. But guess what? She actually didn't do that because we just wanted to like enjoy the night. So we move on to toward the year, and we had the same kind of rejection They called me slurs every time I tried to go into the tables. They calling me a retard, calling me a faggot, and a lot of other crazy shit. But like it, it's gone on for so long that I couldn't even take it no more. That I would start breaking down into tears at some point because my feelings would get hurt from all the hurtful things that they would say about me. And somehow they tolerated it. They got away with it, and the teachers didn't care. I could talk to like as many teachers as they want, and they wouldn't give a crap. They wouldn't give a crap about anything. But if it's a white person that gets bullied, oh, then yeah, they would. They would. And that's when I started to see the racism that was in the school. The racism that was there. Luckily, my other schools weren't like that, but that in particular was a private school, and I didn't realize they were going to be this racist. So we were following the winter dress code at the time. We had to wear button-downs and ties every day from Monday through Thursday. And it was something that I had to adapt for those years. And then I don't remember like the exact day, but something similar to that happened again, but we had like a little break, like a little 5-minute break. And because we had to get stuff from our lockers, and what ended up happening was that same English teacher who works for the middle school pulled me out for like no reason. And of course she pulls out people in my condition for no reason, and of course she lies. I'm not gonna say who it is though, but you get the idea. She would do that, and she would make sure that you say things that aren't actually true. But I would say something that was true, and then she wouldn't even accept it. Then she would say like I'm lying, but I'm not. And to really think that she would be like that really disgusted me. And then from there, she gave me lunch detention for almost like the remainder of my junior year, which was completely disgusting. And then this other teacher who came in, I'm not gonna say who that is, she said, "Not happy, everyone." I'm like, why am I in here when I haven't even done anything? I would have went right back to the cafeteria. But then again, I didn't want to do that because I didn't know what other consequences were gonna come for me, possibly another suspension. But they were really rude with me in junior year, really mean. And then we believed that I said to myself saying high school was going to be the best 4 years of my life, when in reality it was not. People started moving away from me for like absolutely no reason. And to think that something like that would happen really was not something. So it was like my classmates were really mean, and the peers I got weren't that nice. And of course we had a house system. Every couple times we would have a house competition. And that would be during field trips and stuff like that. And that's something we really thought about, was house competitions. Again, of course, we didn't really meet that often. We only met like, I don't know, every other week, and every week during the activities day. Activities day was on a Wednesday, but activities day did start when I first enrolled into private school. But moving on, we go on to senior year. What ends up happening is that, of course, the same thing, rejection, and then my final year, making this worse. It's gotten so bad to the point where I just wanted to leave the school, because I had to do a lot of the events because of my senior year. Of course, things got so bad, rejection, you can't sit here, you can't sit. And I try to say, no, please, you're doing so good. I'm like, I already am doing good. And I'm like, I can sit there, right? And then they still said no. I'm like, what the heck? Why am I still not allowed? I started to realize all the hate crimes that were going on there. And of course, they tolerated that. So, and and then we move on a little forward to the point where I was really upset at one point. I tried to sit at a very crowded table, and then a teacher tell me, of course, I'm not gonna say his name, and he tell me, get up, and like in a monstrous tone, and then I gave him the biggest F-bomb with you on it. And that was when I started to curse at a teacher. But of course, I did not do it because I wanted to. I did it because I was very frustrated and I had my buttons pushed all the way and I was pushed to the limit. And of course, I got in trouble for that, of course, but I had to take a stand for that. This was to take a stand against myself. I had to defend myself because I dealt with this for so long. And it was not something I expected, but yeah, I did get into a lot of trouble for that. But I didn't care if I got in trouble because this was I got because I needed to take a stand for myself. I couldn't just sit there like a hermit. I had to take a stand for myself. And then moved on, and of course we had the window painting contest, and then another one of my consequences was I couldn't participate in it. I was banned from it. And that was not something I expected. But I didn't care if I was banned because why would I want to do something like that with those kids? Then, of course, we had the proms. I didn't want to go to the prom because it was expensive, and I didn't want to be with those kids. That was why I didn't attend the prom. I never wanted to attend the prom with nasty people. And it was not something that I expected. But of course, the prom is a very, very special occasion, but I didn't want to be spending time with those people because they gave me a hard time. So, yeah, that was something I didn't want to do. But then we move on to the Little North Pole. Nothing bad happened then. And what ended up happening was that Little North Pole was something really cool. We'd set up Christmas decorations and stuff like that. We still had to do the chocolate drive, of course. That was like until like November 5th, 20 something or so like that, something like that. So we move on to December, right? Nothing bad. The same kind of rejection happens, same kind of thing. And then we move on to the trimesters. Moving on, same thing, but except that we had to take off for COVID. This is when COVID started to really hit, and the last day was March 12th, and we had to take off because of COVID, and the school was closed for the remainder of the year. I was actually really scared that school was going to be closed for the remainder of the year, but it actually was, which canceled graduation as well. And I was going to graduate in 2020, but COVID, of course, canceled it. And what could happen was I remember one of the days where a student was mentioning Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, and then I tried to go into the conversation saying, and then they would say they wouldn't let me in. Of course, it's high school, and then the teacher started screaming and screaming, and then I was pulled out of the classroom for like absolutely no reason. Like, why are you pulling me out for absolutely no reason? I'm like, what am I even doing that is wrong? I'm not even doing anything that was wrong. They just pull me out and they get me upset for like not for nothing. Then I was pulled out, and then the guidance counselor came and she said, "Oh, come on, let's go call." I'm like, what am I even doing that was wrong? So I was upset, and just for our conversation that I had to go in because this was something I like. I personally like Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, and of course, you guys are very familiar with the game too. It's a very fun game, and I really hope one of these days we could play together on it. Uh, then then we move on, and then we get an email saying that we have to start distance learning because of COVID, and of course it was for the remainder of the year. And every week we would have to take pictures of something with the Give a Little Bit campaign, and that went on for the remainder of the year. Then we had to take our tests online, and we didn't realize that we didn't know how this was gonna go. But then it went out pretty much okay. Um, so moving on, that was pretty much the whole story of high school, and hopefully no one went through what I went through in high school because it was terrible. Uh, anyways, drop a like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you later.